Hey all, and welcome to Shadow of Space, and we are commenting on another BCP video. This is titled CNN implodes over conservative guest dropping truth nuke as entire panel turns against Mamdani stunt. This is uploaded May 9th. This is being recorded May 10th, and link is in the description.
I said I was going to tax the rich.
Yes, you did.
Well, today, we're taxing the rich. I'm thrilled to announce we've secured a pied-à-terre tax, the first in New York's history. This is an annual fee on luxury properties
I have to
worth
admit,
$5 million, whose owners do not live full-time
close-up
in the
shot
city.
of his face
like for
was
this
kind of
penthouse,
cringe.
which hedge fund CEO Ken Griffin bought for $238 million.
Could have done without that.
That was New York City Mayor Zoran Mamdani announcing his plan to tax wealthy residents' second homes as he stood outside of Citadel CEO Ken Griffin's multi-million-dollar penthouse. But that video didn't sit well with two of the city's richest, including Griffin, who had this to say about it.
I actually had to see it a second time because the first time I couldn't believe what I was watching. And I'll tell you, it took a moment to digest what I was watching. What really upset me about the video was the fact that he put me in harm's way. To turn me into a political puppet was just in poor taste, really poor taste.
New York real estate titan Stephen Roth went even further, saying, quote, "I consider the phrase tax the rich when spit out with anger and contempt by politicians both here and across the country to be just as hateful as some disgusting racial slurs, and even the phrase from the river to the sea,"
Wow.
referring there to a controversial pro-Palestinian slogan. I don't know about the racial slur piece.
People say it.
I do think.
Boy, oh boy, oh boy, oh boy, oh boy. So we got to talk about this.
I mean, no. It's a classist slur. I guess it's not, it doesn't have a racial component to it.
That happened on CNN during a debate about taxing the
Fine,
billionaires.
I give it to you.
As a
I
conservative
don't want
guest
to.
is going
I
to
will.
drop a truth nuke on the head of a socialist panelist who's going to lose her mind, right? Lose her mind over the fact that her comrades, individuals like Zoran Mamdani, like AOC, it can be argued that they are inciting violence against CEOs, against billionaires by targeting them with their tax the rich stunts, right? Their virtue signals, like the one that Zoran Mamdani engaged in outside of Ken Griffin's house in Manhattan.
Except, wouldn't that be antithetical to taxing the rich? They can't pay taxes if they're dead. I suppose you could collect, if they had an estate, they could maybe collect taxes on the estate, but that wouldn't be like them engaging in commerce. That wouldn't be them buying things that had taxes on them. So wouldn't killing the billionaires be antithetical to what they wanted to do, which is get the billionaires to pay for things?
And since then, Zoran has gotten a whole lot of backlash. A whole lot of CEOs have spoken out about
what
Zoran did, because they all see the writing on the wall. They understand what we're dealing with here, right? Radical far left lunatics who have been.
I mean, he is going to make a video right outside of your house and say, "This is the guy. This is the one. I'm going after this person who lives right here at this address, and these are all of the horrible things that justify what I'm going to do to them." Apparently, that's how Mamdani thinks that you should govern a city.
Culture, right? The same people who feel like billionaires are the problem, okay? And they explicitly cite billionaires as individuals who should not exist, right? Those people who explicitly say this stuff, yeah. The billionaires understand who we're dealing with, right? That these are potentially violent individuals. And it is so apparent to anybody paying attention that even Ana Navarro on CNN tended to agree with the billionaires who are concerned about Zoran's little political stunt.
They doxed him.
very
I think
reasonable
Mamdani
to have.
really screwed up there. I think it's boneheaded and short-sighted. Listen, Ken Griffin has now moved to Miami.
See, but why, when that is his campaign promise, is to tax the rich? What did he do wrong?
No, because we live in Miami. Ken Griffin has single-handedly changed the face of philanthropy in Miami. He's giving to everything. But we just saw, and in that clip we didn't see it in the clip of Ken Griffin, but he alludes to the assassination of the CEO of the health insurance company by Luigi Mangione last year. And the fact that this puts him in the crosshairs. I think Mamdani did this for clicks. I don't think he needed to do this. In Florida, and I think in a lot of states, people who have homestead there, who are permanent residents, usually pay or have some tax loops that somebody who has a pied-à-terre or has a second home has to pay higher taxes than I do as a person in Florida who's got a homestead exemption because I'm a permanent resident. So I don't know why he's got to do this entire show. I do think he put Ken Griffin in harm's way, Ken Griffin's children in harm's way. I just think it was stupid, and I think Mamdani should have the humility to accept that and to apologize.
This face.
Because this is a city that is the financial center of the world. And if people like Ken Griffin start leaving and deciding not to buy second homes here and not to have their businesses here, New York City is going to be in a world of hurt.
But I mean, there is also there's that extreme, and then there's the other extreme.
See, but why? If they don't actually want the billionaires there, then what's the problem? He's getting exactly what he wants.
Extreme of Stephen Roth saying that this is like a racial slur. I mean, when people hear that, they're like, "Are you?" That doesn't make any sense.
Well, look, people can make their own determination for that, but I want to pick up with...
Are you saying that you can't, that, like, calling someone stupid, calling someone an idiot is not a racial slur? Do you still think that's derogatory language? Do you think that something like eat the rich is a sort of slur against wealthy people? Like...
where Anna was leading to. She's right. 1.6% of the wealthiest people in this city pay nearly half of the taxes. If those folks leave, to Anna's point, you're going to have a financial crisis, the magnitude of which Mamdani does not understand. You think about...
He doesn't care because he wants it.
Everyday things that people utilize, public transit, safety, education, all of the taxes that go to provide for all of those things for poor people in this city. What in the hell are they going to do if 44% of those dollars all of a sudden disappear overnight? And this is the short-sighted nature of this very progressive or socialist mayor. It doesn't make any sense.
You're right to have that debate about what the impact is going to be on the city.
What's significant?
But I will say that you also have to keep in mind that New York City has continuously increased their tax rate. And they've done so and not decreased the number of extremely wealthy people.
I don't necessarily agree with...
In fact, the number of extremely wealthy people in the city has increased.
Well, that's because they have to, because the dollar continues to inflate, because we as a nation continue to accrue debt, because...
I think Anna's point about being
we continue to spend
home,
more than we bring in.
I'm assuming... wrong. I mean, and if I'm wrongfully assuming, God bless you, but all of us have been through threats or having law enforcement in front of our house. I mean, me and you and Donna Brazil talk about that all the time. Just the different type of threats that we deal with. I know Scott deals with it as well. That is beyond the pale of politics and something that you should have the humility to recognize and the political wherewithal to correct that. So let's say that first. Sure.
What about the impulse to do it in the first place?
The second part, the impulse to do it.
And this is what I say. It's just normalized. This just happens. It's fine.
But the reasoning behind it is the messaging. And like, no one is leaving New York because of tax the rich.
That's not true.
That's not true.
Actually, the statistics don't bear that out. But also,
flashback. But maybe the first step should be go down to Palm Beach and see who he can bring back home, because our tax base has been eroded. So I philosophically don't have a problem. It is like I have to look at the fact that we are in competition with other states who have less of a tax burden on their corporations and their individuals. And I would say remote work changed everything. There were people who could only work in an office in Manhattan or work in New York State, and they were captives to our state. They were going to stay. We saw that that's not the case. I mean, you know, Wall Street, businesses looking at Texas.
You thought they were captives in your state? Go back.
Changed the tax, but the fact that base has been eroded. So I philosophically don't have a problem. It is like I have to look at the fact that we are in competition with other states who have less of a tax burden on their corporations and their individuals. And I would say remote work changed everything. There were people who could only work in an office in Manhattan or work in New York State, and they were captives to our state. They were going to stay.
Oh.
We saw that that's not the
yeah, well, yes. The remote workers, they didn't have to stay in our state in order to work.
case. I mean, you know, Wall
We
Street.
thought they were captives. We thought that we were holding them
They're not going there
hostage.
because they have a nicer governor. I know that for sure. But they're going there because of the tax rate. We have to be smart about this.
Hilarious, right? I think a part of
Well,
being liberal.
I don't know how to tell you this, but you have a mayor who needs, in order for his plan to work, to raise the tax rate probably far beyond acceptable limits.
It's just not having to adhere to facts or
Maybe instead of being like, well, I don't not endorse him, maybe you should have been like, no, his policies are going to drive away wealthy people, and I don't endorse him as the candidate. Doesn't mean I don't like him as a person. Doesn't mean if he doesn't win, because that seems to be the way that things are going, that I'm not going to work with him. But more than likely, we're going to have agendas that aren't going to be compatible 100% of the time.
reality, right? You just make shit up. Well, the statistics don't bear that out. Okay, well, if the statistics don't bear that out, why is the governor of New York saying that the tax base is leaving because of the tax rate? Why is she saying that? Right? Like, we know.
Well, why isn't she just jumping on board the whole tax the rich idea?
That New York City,
If she thought it was such a great idea, shouldn't she just
a disproportionate amount of
be doing
millionaires
it?
compared to the rest of the country over the past few years, right? That is what people mean when they say that millionaires are fleeing New York City, which is that compared to the rest of the country, New York City's portion of millionaires, right? People that actually live in New York City that are millionaires compared to the rest of the country, that is shrinking, that is declining. AKA the country as a whole is growing faster economically when it comes to absorbing millionaires than New York, right? Literally, New York's wealth is leaving and being spread out across the country, right? Which is something that Zoran should be cool with, right? Spread the wealth.
all of a sudden
what
that's
Tax the Rich is
not
gonna
what he
do,
wants
right?
to
Tax the
do?
Rich is going to spread the wealth to the South, right? To red states, to states with lower tax rates. Yeah, that's what it's going to do. That's what it's going to do. And it's going to leave the middle class and upper middle class and poor individuals in these blue states left holding the bag. And that is what these socialists don't understand about why is it that people are so opposed to tax the rich, right? Especially conservatives, is because we understand economics, right? We understand how things work, right? We're economically literate, okay? Which, by the way, it is worth mentioning that Anna Navarro, this is the first time I've ever heard her say anything remotely
I
conservative.
mean, again, you talk about economic literacy. They don't even want to be capitalists. It isn't even that they aren't economically literate. It's they don't even want to use the same economic system that we use. I guess it's technically a monetary
On
system.
The View or on CNN, which she actually agreed that, yeah, this is not a good idea, right? This is not good economic policy. The millionaires, the rich will leave, right? And on top of that, she acknowledged that Zoran was basically putting a target on the back of CEOs with his little...
Because this would be true of anyone anywhere. If you raise the tax too much on the middle class and they can't afford the taxes, they're going to leave. Just because they're wealthy doesn't mean that they don't follow by those same rules. If you tax them too much, they're going to be harmed. They're going to be harmed in such a way that they have to do something.
Stunt that he pulled. And notice how Abby Phillip, right, throughout that whole discussion, wanted to talk more about a billionaire comparing tax the rich to a racial slur rather than the fact that Zoran basically put a target on the back of a CEO with his little stunt because of how violent the far left has become in this country, right? Literally celebrating the assassinations of CEOs, and Zoran is one of their ringleaders. I think that it is much more appropriate on CNN, if you're going to have a conversation about this topic, to talk more about that aspect of it rather than a CEO comparing tax the rich to a racial slur. Like, I don't think that should really be a topic of discussion, right? Compared to the broader meaning of what we're saying here, right? Which is something she doesn't want to talk about because it involves acknowledging the fact that left-wingers are violent, right? It's amazing. Absolutely amazing. So, with that being said, we got to react to another discussion that Abby Phillip is going to have here about this same topic. And this is when the debate implodes because this socialist woman is not going to like this truth bomb that is going to be dropped on her. So without further ado, let's get into it.
They're being demonized. I think they're being held accountable. When our country was great, when people think about when it was great, it was when the tax rate on the rich was the very highest. It was between 70 and 90%. This tax that Mamdani is...
They didn't actually pay that though, right? Leftists they just say shit, bro. They say stuff and they don't understand what they're saying. They just repeat whatever they're told, right? I believe Midas touch, the bulwark, right? Like, you have these individuals that are being made in labs, right? These are lab-made liberals.
Well, I mean,
like
just... Where are you getting this? If the tax rate was high, but then it was lowered, why was it lowered? And why do you think the conditions are right now so that we should raise it again?
Woman right here, like, who is she? Politics girl, right? I guess she has a podcast. I've never seen her before except on CNN. Who is this woman? But she has the same...
I don't know who half these people are that they have on here.
Luke Beasley, right? Like all of these individuals that keep popping up, they all look the same and they all say the same stuff, right? None of them are...
That's why they all say the same thing.
Unique, right? Or original at all. It just sounds like they've all been trained, right?
They don't even put it in their own words or say it differently. They use the same vocabulary. They use the same words. They use the same lexicon. Like,
it was much higher when the country
was prospering. No processing, no critical thinking, nothing. Just input taken in, regurgitated out.
But that's not what they actually paid, right? That was not the effective tax rate, which liberals don't understand because they don't know anything. They don't know anything. They think correlation equals causation. Well, see, during the 1950s, we had high tax rates, right? High nominal tax rates, okay? Not effective tax rates. The actual effective tax rate was much lower, right? But again, liberals don't understand the difference. But they basically try to claim like tax rates are the reason why we had prosperity and just completely ignored the fact that in the 1950s, this was post-World War II, where we had zero global competition because we destroyed it all. We destroyed all of them, and we were manufacturing for the world, right? We were the world's factory in the 1950s, post-World War II. That had way more to do with the prosperity of that time period than tax rates. But again, it takes somebody who's economically literate, who actually, understands a little bit of economic history to easily debunk these talking points from socialists. Because let's be honest, She didn't research that, right? Somebody told her that. That's a talking point that was told to her. Somebody said, hey, look, this is what you say when talking about why it's a great idea to tax success, right? Well, our country was prosperous when we were doing that before, right? Except we weren't doing that. Okay, she doesn't understand exactly what she's talking about.
Suggesting is a luxury tax on second homes over $5 million for people who aren't living in them full time. So it's like a pied-à-terre tax. It's going to make about $500 million a year for the city. 98% of the city is for it. I don't know why we wouldn't want that. This idea that you can afford to live in a 200 million plus home.
Yeah, you're right. Why should we harm some of our citizens if it means that some of that money might go towards helping some citizens?
That you don't actually live in and you can't afford to pay more taxes is kind of insane. I think this hurts no one. I think we have to stop defending the people who are...
Who are you to say that it doesn't harm them? This would be like me telling black people what they can and can't consider to be racist. Like, I don't get to do that.
Hoarding their wealth, and I think we need to look at this kind of wealth, this level of wealth, as a hoarder. You would look at a hoarder. If I had way too many typewriters in my house.
I mean, that's generational wealth, is hoarding your wealth. That's generational wealth, is you keeping the wealth for yourself and for your family and for your extended family through the generations.
If I had way too much newspaper in my house, you'd be like, Lee, you got to...
I imagine someone, I don't want to make too many guesses, but for someone who probably doesn't have kids, I can't imagine you would understand that.
Problem. You need to hold off on that. I think these people that get up to billions and billions of dollars, having Elon say he wants to be a 10 trillionaire coming up, it's like, that's a mental problem. And if they can't...
But at the same time, he makes cars, he's into rockets, which means that he has government money, which means that he has federal funding. He has X, which all of the people who get exiled from Blue Sky, where else do they have? Like...
deal with themselves, then we should tax them to deal with it.
So first, just to briefly address the economics, at least in New York, about the top 1% of basically 40,000 people pay about 50% of the taxes. So if you look at the numbers, I think Mamdani is going to be a tough spot because people will continue to leave. So that's just the reality. But in terms of the way that the rich are being treated, Mamdani, of course, is very close with Hassan Piker, who over the years has made comments that he wants to see effing capitalists' blood in the streets.
They know each other.
Mamdani,
They are not. You're associating Hassan Piker. Don't do that.
They know each other? Do they? They like go and get beers together? Or they go and they go to like parties together? Somehow I don't think so. They know each other on the internet. I know him on the internet. He does not know who I am, and I would not consider us to be like friends.
No, but Mamdani basically did a video right in front of Ken Griffin's house, called him out just blocks away from where the United Healthcare CEO had been assassinated. So I can understand why people are on edge. And to address your point, Lee, Elon Musk has deserved every single penny of the money he's made. Jeff Bezos,
absolutely not. That is the most ludicrous statement you have ever made. They are making money off the American taxpayer, off the American government, after deals with SpaceX.
Bigger.
I don't know why you're shilling for these people. It's nuts.
It has made our standard of living, because capitalism has a moral argument that needs to be defended. It has made our standard of living better than any other group of people in any other time. And I would say, I want Elon Musk.
Living, Lydia?
Elon Musk,
whose standard of living?
The standard of living of the middle class that have to get up and go to work every day?
Trillionaire, because guess what? With his money, he's literally letting blind people see. He's letting paralyzed people walk. I want him to have the money, not Elizabeth Warren, who's going to funnel it to fraud.
He's letting blind people see and paralyzed people walk. What are we doing?
Have you heard of Neuralink?
Have I heard of Neuralink? Does it work, babe?
Lydia's point about...
Wow. 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 Wow.
We'll see, but again, he needs to give back more. He's literally trying to figure out how to put chips in people's brains. Like, I don't...
has the mind of a child, right? And there's really no point in engaging in conversation with women like this, right? Especially conversation that is...
you think you want to give the money that he is getting from any sort of, like, government for Neuralink, in terms of, like, regulation or whatever, research funding, and you want to give it to homeless people. What is the benefit that homeless people provide that Elon Musk researching this technology does not? That homeless people would be a better source for the funding than Elon Musk and Neuralink. I'd like...
intellectual.
Oh, it doesn't matter which one is better. I mean, if you only have so many resources, then where do you put them? The scientists that work at Neuralink have to eat just as much as the homeless people on the street do. Where does the money go? Does it go to the people at Neuralink so they can eat, or the homeless people? It can only go to one of them.
Right, in nature. There's no point, because she can't comprehend anything outside of her Marxist worldview. She just can't. There's like no point. The conservative guest here clearly laid out, very succinctly, by the way, while she's being yelled at and this woman is losing her mind, why is it that we're quote-unquote defending billionaires? Which, by the way, I'm not personally defending any billionaire, right? But I'm simply defending myself and others, right? The middle class, the upper middle class, because ultimately, smart people understand that tax the rich ultimately just means tax the middle class and the upper middle class. That's what it means. That's what it means. That's what it results in every single time. People who've actually studied the effects of tax on the rich, who observe what's happening in these liberal cities, in these liberal states, understand what tax the rich actually means. So it's not really about defending the billionaires. It's really about defending myself, right? It's not because I want to be a billionaire, but I understand how tax the billionaires and tax the rich policies ultimately end up trickling down to the middle class, right? Which is the ironic part about how, you know, these people always want to call supply side economics trickle down, right? Reaganomics, trickle down. The real trickle down economics is tax the rich, because the tax actually does trickle down, right? Like, we've observed this. Look at what happened in Chicago. The tax trickles down. Ask the black residents. Does the tax trickle down, right, to their property taxes? You bet it does,
I mean,
right?
you think a place like California, right, where undocumented migrants are getting all of this money while people are living in the sewers and the storm drains. Do you think the money that you are going to get by overtaxing the billionaires is going to go to the people that are getting the welfare fraudulently, or do you think that it's going to go to the homeless person living in the sewer? Which one do you think it should go to?
Rich left downtown Chicago. Businesses left downtown Chicago. And the middle class had to foot the bill for the socialism, right? It happens every single time. Every single time. But people like her, she don't know that. She don't understand that. She thinks that, oh, you're just bootlicking the billionaires, right? It's not about bootlicking billionaires. It's simply about being an educated and intelligent person and understanding that taxing success is not the answer, right? That's not the answer. That's going to cause more problems.
I have to sit here and praise, like, GLP-1s. That's a company with billionaires that continue to get paid absurd amounts of money because they made this drug. But Elon Musk is bad, and him doing it is bad. Why? Just as many people make things and then get super wealthy.
Then they're going to solve, because I don't believe that the government
Again,
can take somebody else's
that
money.
that is the definition of generational wealth, is hoarding your value.
Who, you know, are good
So
at...
then you get AOC saying something like, not every American wants to be a billionaire, and yet they all want to build generational wealth. If you want to build generational wealth, then yes, you want to be on the fast track to being a billionaire. Like,
Getting capital. That's the crazy part about it. To be a billionaire, you know, the main skill that you need in order to make that amount of money is capital allocation. You need to have the skill of being able to allocate capital in ways that produce asymmetric returns, which is much easier said than done. That's how you become a billionaire. It is typically a whole lot of risk involved with entrepreneurship. But if successful, it creates jobs, services, right? It allows...
well, it's being smart about it. It's making sure that the assets for the business are in the business, and making sure that those assets are enough to cover any sort of loans. So if you declare bankruptcy, then the whole thing is self-contained, and it can nuke, and you aren't lost anything.
Individuals like this woman right here to have a decent standard of living, having a podcast that nobody listens to but can, you know, go on CNN, right? Both platforms created and owned by billionaires, by the way, right? Both platforms.
Well, I mean, where do you think these leftists get a lot of their funding? I cannot imagine that Hasanabi is completely only... I mean, maybe he is. I don't know. Audience funded. He has no corporate money. He doesn't get paid by anyone who owns one of these big hedge funds, even if it isn't necessarily on behalf of the hedge fund.
Podcast, whatever podcast platform she's on, Spotify, YouTube, I don't know, doesn't matter. We know her podcast wouldn't exist without a billionaire. She wouldn't be on CNN without a billionaire, right? She wouldn't be on television without a billionaire. She wouldn't have a voice. Nobody would give a damn about what she got to say without a billionaire.
Well, she'd have to self-publish, which means that she would have to have people working under her to create the infrastructure for her specifically to get her voice out there. She has to be a dictator. She has to work her slaves to have her vision accomplished.
She'd be in the kitchen without a billionaire. Right? Let's keep it all the way 100. But somehow she thinks that the people who created all these platforms that she's benefiting from are hoarding wealth. They're hoarding wealth as if they're not actively using capital to create better products and services.
Like Jeff Bezos, because I don't want to use like Zuckerberg or Musk, owns Amazon, right? So when you say that he's a billionaire, is it because, like, what is his salary? I guess I don't actually know, but there's a difference between him paying himself a whole bunch of money and him having a whole bunch of money because one of his assets is Amazon. Those are two different things.
Our standard of living, right? They pretend as if billionaires haven't done anything. They haven't done anything for society, right? We don't benefit from them at all. The fact that somebody can become a billionaire justifies the risk that you have to take in order to become a billionaire, right? It's all about risk and return.
I mean, arguably, it's about responsibility. It's how much responsibility you can handle. If you can't make tough decisions when you need to make the tough decisions, then you probably shouldn't be on top. Then you probably aren't going to be on top.
If the return is not there, if you can't make a lot of money or you can't accumulate a lot of capital, and if there's not a high return compared to the risk, then a lot of people are not going to pursue entrepreneurship. They're not going to innovate. They're not going to create products. They're not going to create services. They're not going to improve people's lives. And that leads to stagnation and a lack of growth. And that is overall bad for everybody, okay? If you're not growing, then you're declining. It's kind of how our economic system works. It depends on growth. You have to continue to grow.
Or you're stagnating, which the problem with stagnation is if there's some sort of calamity, or if there's some sort of problem, or if there's some sort of issue, then you need time in order to figure out how to correct it.
In order to grow, that requires capital.
If you're only sustaining, if you don't have a surplus, that some of which you're capping off and saving in case for like rainy day funds or emergencies, then every time you're hit with something that pulls on more of those resources, you're going to be at a deficit until eventually you're just surviving off of what you have. You have no stockpile left.
Investment. That is risky because you're taking all the risk. That's why you get all the reward. That's why you get all the return, right? If you create something that society or the free market says is worth $1 billion, then you get rewarded for creating.
Because it's also understanding your product. Like all the way at the beginning, I talked about fidget spinners. You know, it made its money. It realized that it was a niche product, that it that once it hit its peak, it was probably going to die out. It got its money's worth. And if the people who made them were smart, then they would have realized that there was going to be a plateau and eventually stopped making them so that they didn't have to worry about having massive inventory.
That, right? But if you don't get rewarded for it, then there's no incentive to create it. There's no incentive to do it. Again, these are very basic concepts that socialists just refuse to accept about human nature. And that's why I say it's a waste
because socialism is antithetical to nature. Nature exists where resources are finite and they are unevenly distributed. Socialism is an attempt to correct that by taking resources from the naturally rich sources and attempting to evenly distribute those resources amongst everything in the population, in the area, in the ecosystem, I guess. It's completely antithetical to how life on this planet works as of right now.
Time arguing with these people because they believe that their Marxist worldview is unfalsifiable, even despite just basic inconsistencies with Marxism and in human nature, right? How the world actually works. So, individuals like this woman clearly cannot grasp how somebody like Elon Musk, with all the things he's done that was outlined by this conservative panelist, right?
The first part was actually that resources are infinite, that we live in a space where you can never run out of things, and the idea is to then distribute all of those infinite resources evenly so that everything has enough.
You're talking about Tesla, you're talking about SpaceX, you're talking about Neuralink, you're talking about, like, he's changing the world. He's literally providing internet.
Again, internet. He also has X. He also has Twitter.
To remote parts of the world that nobody else can provide internet to. This socialist believes that he doesn't deserve $1 billion for that, right? You believe that Elon Musk does not deserve $1 billion for providing internet to the world. We're talking about in humanitarian situations. He's dropping off Starlink and providing internet. Ukraine is using Starlink. He doesn't deserve $1 billion for that, right? And here's the kicker. If Elon doesn't get the $1 billion, then it's going to be impossible for him to fund the next startup or the next company that changes the world, right? And that's the thing that these people really, they don't understand. Like, Elon is not hoarding wealth. Like, that capital that Elon is accumulating is actively being used to innovate and to create the next.
That's like saying that Steve Jobs or Bill Gates didn't give anything back to the world. Like, didn't contribute enough.
Company or to create the next product.
Even though
to improve the next service.
We wouldn't even have
that capital is constantly
large swaths of our technology if they
innovation,
haven't been constantly iterating and reiterating product.
For technological advancement. It's not hoarding wealth. The wealth is being used to grow, right? To provide more prosperity to humanity. In a literal sense, right? But again, according to this clown, who again has a pea brain, a child, right? A child's mind, oh, he don't deserve all of that. It's crazy, man. Like, these people, like why is she on national television? She's on CNN. We have individuals like this on CNN making these crazy arguments. It's a shame how backwards this country.
Well, again, it just because, like the one person said, that tried to make the argument that the Democrat Party is not a party of socialists. It's not a party of Marxists. Like, of course they are. At this point, the Democrat Party is inherently anti-capitalist. I don't know what you think you are if you're an anti-capitalist. I don't know what economic system you ascribe to if you don't ascribe to capitalism.
Has become.
Oh, capitalism.
My God, this is so freaking insane.
Lydia, hold on, Lee. Lydia's point about capitalism being a vehicle for prosperity across the board in this country is true. But I also think you have to acknowledge that specifically Elon Musk would not be anywhere near as rich as he is if not for the United States government, which subsidized his businesses, which gave him contracts, etc.
More BS from CNN, right? Abby Phillips, she always has to chime.
Well, so what? So do defense contractors? So do engineers. People who install like solar and stuff off of government dollars. Like,
well, her Marxist opinion as well too. That's wrong, right?
Healthcare
without context, right? Like, for example, I don't know if Abby Phillip knows, but Elon made $180 million off of PayPal without any government help, right? So 180 million, right, was made without the government at all. Also, on top of that, yes, Elon has received, some of his companies have received some government subsidies and contracts and things of that nature. But when you talk about Tesla and SpaceX, he started those companies with his own money, right? Not the government money. And those were very, very, very risky bets, right?
As well as the idea that, you know, Teslas were getting firebombed. That's more money that he has to spend making more cars because people destroy them. Making more parts to repair cars because people are destroying them.
Went under a few times. But he emerged from that, and that's when he started to earn the government contracts because he was providing the government with a product and a service, right? You know, the government can be a legitimate customer for a product and a service, right? I don't know if these people understand, but if the government needs something done, they can pay for it, like any other customer. And they have gotten a damn good return on their investment from using Elon Musk, right? Doing business with Elon Musk. It has been an overall net positive for our government. I don't think anybody can argue anything differently, right? But again, according to these people...
I mean, again, like Teslas. electric vehicles.
Deserve anything. Elon is
He was
he's
in the
hoarding
market
wealth,
while other
right?
people were still
It's just
trying to
it's such a
get them
childlike
made.
worldview. It's not even really worth engaging with, but we have to because these people are actually winning elections,
He
right? They're
wasn't he helping to fit the bill for some of the infrastructure, for some of the charging stations and stuff? Maybe that was just at the dealerships? I guess I don't
gaining
know.
power and control in this country, and this is
I
why
mean,
we have to have
California can't even put in charging stations.
these conversations that in a sane country we just shouldn't have to have. But unfortunately, this is where we are. So let me know what you guys think. Make sure you like, comment, and subscribe.
I don't know. Because I guess really this is about Mamdani's stunt with calling out the one guy who owned that penthouse or whatever. I mean, would Mamdani like it if someone made a video like that outside his house, being like, this is the mayor of New York. I'm gonna stand out here every day at 2 a.m. and I'm just gonna blow a foghorn directly outside of his bedroom window, making this direct threat to you. Would that be okay? Would he just be like, oh, well, I guess that's gonna happen. What are you gonna do? Like, that's what he's expecting these rich people to do. To have him literally call them out in a video and have them just take it. Just be like, well, I guess he's right. I guess there's nothing that I can do except be Mamdani's personal ATM. Like, no, they're not going to do that, I don't think.